A war-hungry conqueror or a liberator? A strong hand in a time of major crisis? Or opportunistic dictator? In this video, I will unravel that extraordinary enigma that changed the face of Europe and the world, Napoleon Bonaparte. Like all good stories, this starts with financial hardships. In 1768, the island that Napoleon was to be born on, Corsica, declared independence from the Italians and the French. Led by the charismatic leader Pascal Paoli, they fought the French for 2 years. Writing down all the orders for the battles and provisions was a 20-year-old Carlo Bonaparte. His wife being pregnant with their second son Napoleon, and with 30,000 men bearing down on the small 8-kilometre island, Carlo switched his allegiance to the French. Napoleon would be born as a French citizen 3 months later, which would change history forever. Napoleon's family wasn't all that rich. Carlo, because he switched sides, and because the French gave money to anyone that was part nobility, he could afford a small cottage. Napoleon wasn't really social in his childhood, and basically stayed upstairs in his room, learning about history. He'd read stories of Scipio, Hannibal, Alexander, Caesar, and thought, wow, if only I could be as famous as those guys. With all this studying, he also got really good at maths and physics, which means he excelled in school and got a recommendation to the main military academy in Paris, the École Militaire. Yeah, real imagined him, I know. He writes the first of 33,000 letters that we have on record. He writes it to his uncle. Joseph should not become a soldier, as destiny has given me, not him, a distinct love for the military. Like always, he aced all of his exams. Out of 202 people from across France taking the military exams, only 136 passed. Out of that, only 14 got to join the artillery. He got stationed on the bank of the Rhone in 1785 at the age of 16. He really had nothing to do being on the bank of the Rhone and all in peacetime, so he wrote a load of books, mostly history, and he wrote a poem called On Suicide. It's mostly just teenage angst, like, oh, I'm stuck here with a bunch of rowdy dudes for 9 months, I can't even write stuff, they won't leave me alone. I'm not even in Corsica, why not die? He bounced around the frontiers for a few years, until 1789, when the French Revolution started, which would lead to 14 years of terror and bloodshed. In this political climate, this would make him come to power. But he didn't know that yet. He wrote to his brother in Corsica from his barracks. I repeat what I've said to you. A week after the fall of Bastille, calm will return. In a month, there will be no question of anything. Oh, he was severely, severely wrong. In the early days after the Bastille fell, France was up in arms against the king. He had to go to Auxerre and Valence to put down a rebellion with a whiff of grape shot. Then Corsica had some civil strife. Can I have 6 months on leave? Okay, fine. Most of the officers spend their time on leave anyway. But since you're actually competent, I want you back ASAP. He didn't come back ASAP. While France was basically in a state of anarchy and chaos, and the king and queen being dragged to Paris, Napoleon went to Corsica, because there was about to be a civil war between those that wanted to try for independence or join France as a province. Napoleon, along with his brothers who still lived in Corsica, jumped into politics, setting up a political club, advocating for political reform to the French monarchy. In 1790, France claimed Corsica as a province, but allowed exiles to come back, including Pascal Paoli. He was made president of Corsica because most of the people in Corsica liked him, so they wouldn't revolt. Until 1792, when the king, being imprisoned in Paris and trying to get Austria and Prussia to invade to gain back his power, was executed. Oh my god, that's so screwed up, I can't believe they killed the king. Then Paoli got a letter from Paris saying he needs to invade Sardinia. He says to one of his nephews, who's actually leading the army, okay, I need you guys to screw up. I need you guys to screw up the invasion. The British persuaded me to let them keep the island, and they have kind of an interest in that. Napoleon sees this. With British troops invading Sardinia and Bonaparte being an officer in the French army, his family fled to the mainland in June 1793. The next month, he published a pro-Republican pamphlet which got into the hands of a very important person, the brother of the now de facto dictator of France, Augustin Robespierre. Wow, this is actually really good. This guy's going places. In October, The city of Toulon revolted, getting sick of all the constant executions, especially Maximilien Robespierre, the dictator, killing political opponents. They flew a British flag on the port and invited the British Navy to invade.